AJ Ngannou, when we talked about this fight, when we talked about what AJ was going to do next after Volin, I didn't really think anyone thought about Ngannou, but here he is.
Yeah, I mean, look, he made a real statement. Let's be honest, he made a real statement when he boxed Tyson. I think he shocked the whole world. He's shown it. He's more than credible, and it's a real fight. It's a real fight.
And now you've got 10 rounds worth of tape. That's an advantage that you guys have that Tyson Fury didn't have, and I'm sure you and Lee Wiley will be meticulously freeze-framing every single moment.
Yeah, for sure. That is a bonus, 100%. You know, that is an advantage that we have. But there's a job to do, and we're preparing very seriously. We're taking this very seriously. I think that his performance against Tyson, I think, at the time, I know Tyson, obviously. I've worked with him.
Just a bit.
He's a very professional athlete. He takes his job very seriously. He would have prepared properly for Ngannou. Now, mentally sometimes it's hard to put yourself in a position where you fully have that respect for the opponent that you should, even though you're trying to do all the right things that you should do, sometimes that's not there. Only he can answer those questions, but I think Ngannou shocked all of us, and I think that he's, as I said before, he's a very, very credible opponent.
He certainly is, Andy Clark.
Yeah, he is 100%, and it's just a fascinating situation to have somebody new just enter the fray like this, because you don't get that in sport, because where are people going to come from? You can't just decide, okay, off the back of nothing, I'll go to the Olympics, win a gold medal, then turn pro the next day. So tactically, to have somebody just appear like this, it's bizarre, to be honest, but it's also fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And what you said about Fury there, I think you're absolutely right. We can't know for sure, but I would imagine that he just didn't have that knot of fear in his stomach that drives you to that next level, that fear that you could lose. I think that probably wasn't there. But, you know, 10 rounds later, whoever was going to get him next, it would be a different story, and it's Anthony.
What has AJ been saying to you about this fight? I'm sure he watched the fight with Tyson Fury. I'm sure you guys have been watching it. What's he saying to you about that fight and about this fight?
Again, much like I said about Tyson, he's a true professional, very, very professional, takes his job very seriously. And, you know, not that it needs reiterating, but he's reiterating the fact to his team that this is a serious fight and the job needs to be done properly.
Is this one of those Ruiz 2 performances? Is that what you've got in your head? Has he got a box perfectly, keep away from him? Or is this something where actually, because Dewey Cooper's been talking about this fight as fire versus fire, two guys swinging it out. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think that Ngannou's team won't be as mad as that. I think if they go gun-ho to Joshua, he punches more than hard enough that if he's a bit reckless in Ngannou, he gets caught on the counter, it could be game over very quickly. I think that it would be a similar approach from Ngannou, and that makes him a handful. A patient go, can punch really hard. He didn't get carried away with himself. He didn't get flustered. That, along with his physicality, is what brings the threat. If he's a bit gun-ho and a bit reckless, you know, I think his team know enough. And on Dewey Cooper, I know of Dewey Cooper because of a performance from Jesse Vargas against Manny Pacquiao, where he performed a lot better than people expected him to. Straight away, I've always had Dewey Cooper in my mind as he's a coach that looked like he'd done his homework there. Then we saw the Ngannou fight versus Fury, and my respect went up for him even more. So, you know, I'm sure they'll put together a good plan, and I'm sure that they know enough not to be as gun-ho and as reckless as that, because the fight could be over that quickly. You know, these are two big guys, and yes, Ngannou can punch, and he's a threat, but if he's reckless, don't forget, AJ's also one of the most devastating punchers out there, with the abilities to set traps, set things up, and yeah, make him pay for those silly mistakes.
In your head, Andy, who's got the better chin, by the way? Because we've seen Francis Ngannou get kicked in the head. We saw an elbow in the Tyson Fury fight as well, which he seemed to eat and keep coming forward. He took some good Tyson Fury shots as well. He's been talking about Anthony Joshua's chin. That's what he's highlighting. How are you seeing that?
People talk about chins a lot in boxing, and chinny is a phrase that people throw around, and if a fighter gets stigmatised, and it is a stigma as being chinny, then it could be hard to shed. I don't really buy into it myself. From speaking to trainers and everybody involved in boxing, if you get caught clean with a punch that you're not braced for, you're going down, and most likely in the heavyweight division you're getting knocked out. So if you expose that chin and get hit on it, then you've got a problem. But anyone can go if they get hit right, particularly at heavyweight. People might like to think that that's not the case, but they're fooling themselves if they think that's not the case. There are fighters, of course, who haven't been knocked out, but that's because they just, for whatever reason, that hasn't happened to them. I was talking to Frotch about this last year, and he said to me, listen, and you'd expect him to be the ultimate kind of, yeah, no one could knock me out kind of guy. And he said, no, I could have been knocked out. It just never happened. You know, that's the jeopardy. That's the jeopardy. So I don't really buy into all this kind of chin business. You can get confidence from it if it's never happened to you, but you can't ever let that tip over into feeling like it couldn't, because it definitely could.
Genuine jeopardy for AJ in this one, Ben.
In every fight there is, you know. Everybody that has been fighting their whole life and is that size, they're a threat. And I've been standing here saying this is a genuine fight. So of course they all are at this level, but something that you have to accept, and something I think is really important that we're honest about, and we don't kid ourselves to think that this is an easy touch. It's not. And like I said before, we're preparing very seriously and professionally and taking this very serious.
And they are as well. I mean, Dewey Cooper's done a number of interviews over the weekend. I've been watching them. I love his voice, by the way. It's incredible. You'll hear it today up at the presser.
It's Hollywood, isn't it?
It's incredible. Like, some of the things he's been talking about, how his plan, beat Anthony Joshua, get a rematch with Tyson Fury, become undisputed champion of boxing.
Well, it'd be some run, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, we're going to have to put an end to that pretty quickly, so...
One of the things that he talked about as well was he was asked about the Usyk fights. Have you been watching the Usyk fights? Is there anything you can take from Usyk's wins over Anthony Joshua? And he said, yeah, because Francis can switch southpaw. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that I've been calling. I'd love the Usyk fight. Now working with AJ, I'm extremely confident of being able to help him put that right. And yeah, you know, people said the same with Wallin. You know, struggle with southpaws. Wallin's going to be a tough fight, and he handled him more than comfortably. So yeah, you know, in terms of Usyk, I'd love to get the opportunity to help him put that one right.
It's interesting when people talk about game plans, isn't it? Because you will have a plan, of course, and in an ideal world, you go out there, execute your plan, it goes perfectly, they have no answers, and you win the fight. And that seemed to me to be basically what happened against Otto Wallin. But at this absolutely highest level, more often than not, it's your ability to adapt that'll win you the fight. And people have always talked about Joshua being this phenomenal kind of student, someone who's able to learn at a rate that other people just can't. Have you found that?
Yeah. So I think I can't speak for him, but my experience is extremely coachable, and I feel like the trust got built to a certain point where I needed it to be just before the Otto Wallin fight, and there was a few things before going into the fight where I was extremely confident that trust was there. Now, each fight's different, and you have to keep building on that, and you know. But I think the way that we coach suits the type of character he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got everything he could possibly want available to him. You're not going to make him watch everything and do everything that Lee does and that you do, but he can if he wants to. And I think that's probably the key for him, maybe.
Yeah, it's our job to pick the right bits that we want to show and want to focus on, and dialogue as well. You know, he might have something on his mind and he's asking the question. A lot of it is talking, having a discussion, talking through a scenario, walking through a scenario, repeating a scenario, drilling a scenario, then doing it in sparring. Then all of a sudden, just like magic, it seems to happen on the night.
Listen, after the Wallin performance, it was kind of a question. Me and Andy were talking about it. We did the post-show wrap, and we said, well, surely now, after that, you just stay with Ben Davison. You don't really need to go elsewhere. Was that a conversation, and how were those kind of moments after, leading up to you being here now?
Well, there wasn't like a massive conversation. I just think, again, I can't speak for him, and as much as like people were going, oh, Ben's rejuvenated AJ. It's a load of nonsense, do you know what I mean? The skills, he's an Olympic gold medalist. These are all skills that we've had. All we have done is helped him understand these are the tools that you've got that we think will work for that job. These are the tools you've got that we think will work for that job. That's our job, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, Lee Wiley says this about football. Pep Guardiola doesn't tell Cristiano Ronaldo to kick the football a little bit more with his part of the foot. He teaches the team how to play in a system against another team, and that's what we do as coaches at this level.
But the key thing about that is what you just spoke about previously. He has to trust what you're telling him. That's the job in a way, isn't it? It's a psychological process more than anything else. You could tell him that somebody else might tell him in a slightly different way, and he won't buy it.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd want me to say this, but all this, you know, the character that people have got where he's not sure and all these questions and mindset and all that, I don't know where people get it from. So obviously they only see a certain side of him and a certain element and all the rest of it, but very, very smart guy, knows what he wants and very determined. So yeah, I think a lot of people are confused with the type of character and, you know, who he is.
All right, last one before we let you go. What's going to happen in this fight?
Anthony Joshua by knockout.